the passing on Ian von Memerty, it started a debate around the ethics of not only just assisted dying, but also the decision to take one's own life on one's own terms. Ian von Memerty passing away on the 23rd of February, but his family announcing this week that he had in fact taken and decided to take his own life. It was part of a series of posts before his death, where Ian argued that he wanted to leave the world on his own terms. He wanted to have control while he was still healthy, while he was still mentally sharp, while he was not financially or physically burdensome to anyone. He rejected this label of suicide, framing it as a decision that is to him rational, to be autonomous, having the autonomy of choice and also the dignity and control that goes with that. Not too long ago, Ian spoke to John Matham, and this is what he said.
Then there are three things that I think I would also like to just shift the lens on. The one is that we now have a man-made epidemic, in fact it's a pandemic, it's global, of extended decrepitude, where we seem to have inherited a mantra, which is we must extend human life at all costs, but there is no swaying on the suffering that goes along with that, to owning your own death in a careful, prepared, considerate, practical, responsible way. And I believe it is a fundamental human right, and I do believe that it needs to be revisited as a fundamental human right. And then the fourth thing, which I feel needs to be addressed, is the difference between what I would call self-deliverance and suicide, because preparing your life or preparing to end your life in a pragmatic, kind, calm, grieving, celebratory, fully functional way is very different to feeling so desperate and full of pain that you're going to end it in a violent way with no preparation and no time to consider the after effects of that to the people around you or to the people who find you. The most surprising thing for me, because I started this as a Facebook series, is the degree of gratitude and relief flooding at me. And it literally comes in thousands of messages saying, thank you for saying what I've been thinking or for articulating what I've been trying to think about it. Thank you for the sanity. It has been, I was expecting far more pushback come back against this, but it appears that there are far more people who think like this than I suspected, even though I feel strongly about it. But for a lot of people, they would be a lot less scared of approaching death, I think, if they felt they had some choice, some power in being able to say, you know what, I'd like to make plans now to say goodbye and have an easier death. My father died over 12 years. It took 12 years of absolute debilitation. My mum died about a month ago now, and there was only gratitude and thanks when she went, because there was nothing remaining of the woman that was there.
The now late Ian von Memerty self-delivered himself. Self-deliverance is what he called it. It wasn't a suicide, it was self-deliverance. While the conversation around medically assisted suicides, assisted dying, while that conversation is continuing in South Africa, and I think there are more and more people who understand that assisted dying in cases of terminal illness and unbearable suffering it does have merit. Would it be beyond the realm of considering that should a mentally competent adult have the legal right to choose the timing of their death, even if they are not terminally ill, or should that right be limited strictly to cases of unbearable medical suffering? Professor Willem, I really appreciate your time. Willem Landman, co-founder of Dignity SA. The conversation around assisted dying or the dignity that goes along with planning one's own death to leave this world in dignity. How does this conversation of Ian von Memerty contribute or muddy or is part of this conversation?
Morning, Lester. Yeah, these are big issues. I think, as far as I can tell, Ian's public statements about the worth of his own life and his fear of what is to come opened up the debate somewhat, because we have to interrogate the reasons we have for co-opting others' assistance to help us die. In the assisted dying debate, one of the first issues is that of eligibility criteria. What makes one a candidate for assistance with dying, such that the state protects that choice that we make, so that we can co-opt the help or the assistance of somebody else, medical professionals, to assist us with dying. And the standard criteria would be that we are competent, we make a rational choice, that we have a free choice, but also that there are certain conditions of suffering, of ill health and suffering, that qualifies one as a candidate to be assisted legally with dying. Now, it just seems to me that Ian's reasons for choosing death are somewhat different from those of his parents. So I think that's where some confusion comes in. It seems that his mother, at least, was suffering greatly from illness, old age, and related issues. And you know, that her situation was different from his. He was healthier, much younger, etc. So I think that's where the conversation should be. When can the state actually, can we invoke constitutional rights to be assisted with dying so that we die in a dignified way in certain conditions, versus the choice that we always have throughout our lives? We can make that choice. It's obviously difficult to execute the choice, to act upon it, to kill oneself. But that's a choice that we always have. The issue is just what are legitimate reasons for doing so in terms of our responsibility towards others, and then co-opting the state's help in killing ourselves.
In Ian's case, he argued that he did not want to become old. He did not want to become a financial burden, a physical burden on anyone. Is the fear of decline in one's own faculties, physical, mentally, and the loss of maybe status, is this ethically comparable to the unbearable physical suffering of maybe a terminal illness?
I do not think so. I think there are borderline cases, but I think there's a marked difference. I think when suffering becomes intractable and unbearable, overwhelming, and there's no respite, there's no turning around, and it consumes everything, our lives, those people have a legitimate reason to be assisted with dying. But, you know, in extreme cases of suffering that cannot be turned around. And this suffering may be of different kinds, and it can happen at any age. We can contract cancer in our 20s or in our 90s. But in Ian's case, it seems that life is beautiful, but life has challenges, and we have responsibilities to others, and we need to take that into account. But in Ian's case, it seems to me that he was thinking of the future. He thinking of future scenarios that he could not identify himself with, and that he wanted to depart before any of those scenarios becomes a reality. And that is different from anticipating what may happen to one, is different from actually being immersed in suffering.
Is quality of life comparable to to this conversation. I fear
Yes.
a diminishing of my quality of life. In Ian's case, he was an entertainer. That's what he wanted to do. We know that the entertainment space is narrowing. He did not want to become a financial burden. It's his quality of life that was impinged. Is the quality of life, in again that loss of status, equal to the loss of quality of life, say, if you are bedridden or you are or wheelchair bound?
Well, there's a difference between what happens to one's body and being able to cope with intense suffering, and one's social circumstances. Some people are poor, some are rich. Some struggle to have a roof over their heads, etc. Where do we draw the line? I think everybody can make a choice. We are autonomous beings, and we can make a choice. Obviously, to act on that choice and to kill oneself is not that easy. But the fact is that we all have challenges that we negotiate in some kind of way, and legitimate assistance, legitimate quest for assistance can only be, reasonably, become a reality if we have extreme suffering. If our suffering is such that there's no escape. But anticipating suffering, anticipating hard times, well, those are not reasons that the state can get involved in terms of legislation that would enable one, that would give expression to one's constitutional rights.
Yeah, but I guess this is also the deeper philosophical question of what it means to be human. And if you bring in the thinkers of Kant on one hand, who said that killing oneself is like killing humanity, or if you look at Schopenhauer, who said that there's nothing in the world to which every man has more unassailable title, and that is to his own life and his own person. Why do you think people are drawn to this conversation?
Yeah, I think, there is a sense in which one sort of, when one escapes one's responsibilities, we are all in networks of relationships at various levels with family and friends and colleagues, etc. We pick up responsibilities. We are in personal relationships. And by opting out, one actually, without having good reasons that have not materialized yet, but just opting out because one anticipates hard times, it is like taking life not seriously enough, as it were. Our responsibilities not seriously enough.
Professor Willem Landman, really appreciate your time. Co-founder of Dignity SA.